Welcome to a not-so-traditional episode of Synergetic Culture. If you listened last week, I mentioned that we would be interviewing someone on today's episode, but we've decided to pivot this week, and there's a couple reasons why. First of all, the guest that we were going to interview was unavailable to record at the time at which we had originally planned, which is okay. That's been rescheduled, but rather than backfill with another interview, today I decided that it would be best to pivot to talk about something that's a little bit more pressing and on my heart and on my mind today to share with you, our listeners of Synergetic Culture. Today is not so traditional because today is going to be the first episode where I'm completely and totally unscripted. Usually I have a framework, some type of outline, and I'm driving toward a direction. But today I am coming completely off the cuff. This has been an extremely challenging day, and I want to share it honestly and authentically with you and just kind of process a little bit since I have this ability to record and share some of my thoughts and feelings on this platform. I don't know exactly where this will land. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I do want to just share some stuff. And it's stuff that I think a lot of people can connect with and understand. And hopefully, by the time this is done, it's something that we can be encouraged to go forward. I think there's a ton, so many different angles at which we can talk about building the culture, building people. This is such a personal episode. And I think that in realizing some of the things that I have today in light of some recent circumstances, keeping these things in mind, learning, reflecting, and growing from moments like these, I think ultimately build better people, which builds better cultures. And so that's why I want to talk about it today. So I've kind of teed this up, and it feels probably a little bit like a cliffhanger. If you're still hanging around listening, you might have turned this off and thought, I'll just tune in next week, and that's okay. Today was challenging because somebody that I'm close with received some difficult news. I'm not going to go into extreme detail because I haven't even been able to process completely, and to be honest, I didn't ask this person if I could go into any details or share this in this way on this platform. So I'm going to stay vague. But somebody that I know and I'm close with just got news today that a family member who was in the hospital and struggling with a lot of different health issues, that there was no longer anything that the medical staff was going to be able to do. And that family member is being taken off life support and expected to pass in the next couple of days. And it's a really hard reality to watch someone that you're close with experience and go through. If you're listening to this and you've had any proximity to tragedy, then you know how heavy and heartbreaking and challenging it is to experience that or know someone who experiences that. Personally, I've walked through some tragedy in the last decade or so of my life, and there's a couple of things that I've come away from those situations with that I've kind of kept with me, taken on as I push forward. The first thing that comes to mind, again, this is not scripted, so I don't have this written down anywhere, and But the first thing that comes to mind as I process all of this right now is just the fragility of life. Realizing that each and every day is a blessing and an opportunity. I don't know about you, but I find myself going through days where I take for granted the little things, the blessings. And a day like today, where the fragility of life is hanging in the balance for someone so close to me, I'm reminded that each and every day is a gift and a blessing. As I continue to process, I think about relationships that I have in my life, with family, with close friends, colleagues, people that I would say I'm connected with. And I feel an immense wave of gratitude for those people. And kind of similarly to the challenge that I gave a couple episodes back about not withholding encouragement and reaching out to somebody if they've made a difference in your life, I'm reminded to value the people that are in my life. And to be honest, I feel like for myself, and maybe you're listening to this and this resonates with you, sometimes I get caught up and hung up on little things that at the end of the day truly don't matter. Little things that can be figured out. Little things that don't need to get in the way or drive a wedge in the relationship between me and another human being. And yet sometimes I do get caught up on those little things. Today I'm reminded about the fragility of life and to see past those little hurdles and see people. A couple of years ago, I was challenged with this exercise. And I heard about this exercise because of a story. But somebody took a group of students to a cemetery and told them just to walk around and observe. And when they came back, the person leading the group asked the students what they noticed. And a lot of them pointed out the length of time that people lived. Looking at somebody, this person lived past 100. This person lived over 100 years ago. Just some of the different nuances with time. But there was a student who reflected on not the time, but the words that were imprinted on those gravestones. And oftentimes it's a statement or a word. It's a legacy, though. And so upon hearing this story, I was challenged to reflect on a legacy. See, that leader that took those students out there had the students go back and write an assignment on what they want their gravestone to say when it's their time, and what they want their legacy or statement or word about them to read. And so it seems like kind of a morbid exercise, but I think it's really profound. And when I went through this exercise, I felt really challenged. What do I want my legacy to be? What do I want my my life to represent. When I think about how fragile life is, and I think about seeing past all the little things in life and just truly seeing people, I'm reminded of what I want my legacy to be. And I've kind of turned this into a personal mission statement, a goal that I have. But I hope that at the end of my life, whether or not my gravestone actually says this, my hope is the legacy that I will leave would be that everyone who knew me or was affected by me felt loved. That's my goal for my life. So when I get caught up and hung up on little things, I think it's because I'm losing track a little bit of what that life goal, life statement is all about. I've had seasons of my life where I've gone through challenges in relationships, some very close. I've had division amongst myself and immediate family members for periods of time. I think all of us, if you're listening, have in some way been touched by the family drama. And I love my family, each and every person in it. But I found myself in seasons years ago where there was division. There was a wedge. I've also found myself struggling with bitterness and resentment toward people for past hurts, wrongdoings, situations where I think if anybody were to look at them, they would say, gosh, that should not have been done to you, Adam. Where I truly was the victim of a situation. And rather than find peace and forgiveness and healing and growth, I've wrestled with bitterness and resentment. Those are not easy things to let go of. And since I'm doing this unscripted and off the cuff, then you get the raw, real emotion of Adam Bieber tonight. And as I record this, I can even think of relationships that were hurt because of something that was said or done, and bitterness and resentment that I struggle with even to this day. And it's moments like these, it's nights like tonight where I tried so hard to wrap my mind around an exciting topic that would encourage you to build a synergetic culture and be something that I would hope would add value. I'm challenged instead. Because as I watch a close friend experience final moments with a close loved one, I kind of take a step back and examine my life and examine my relationships and my priorities. And I feel challenged. My heart's heavy. I'm sad. But I think if there's something to glean from all of this, it's that no matter where you're at when you listen to this podcast episode, if you're listening right now, you woke up this morning which means you have an opportunity to make the most of every breath, every second, minute, hour that you have in this day. And whether this be one of many or one of few, you have an opportunity. And so I just want to pose a question, and it's a question that I'm wrestling with tonight, and it's a question I want to extend toward you. But how are you making the most of every day? Are there relationships in your life that you're prioritizing? Are there people or relationships, things that have happened in your past that you're hanging on to that are just building resentment, anger, the inability to move forward? I'm definitely not here to tell you that you just got to get over it. I promise you that doesn't work. I've tried. What I am here to encourage you in is to see opportunity in the midst of struggle. In the sales world, we say pain is opportunity. When somebody's experiencing a problem or a pain in their business and you are selling solutions, then you can come to them and say, hey, I can solve for that pain. And so when I experience uncomfortability, pain, a problem, I'm looking for opportunity. And I always want to see it as an opportunity, because that's where we transform our pain. And now I'm shifting off of sales and all of that and talking to you as an individual. Pain can either be a vehicle to remain a victim, or it can be a platform to be victorious. There's a big difference between being a victim and being a victor. And so what are you going to do with that pain? And then I think really the last thing that I think about right now is going back a couple of episodes, I mentioned a process that I use when I'm faced with anxiety. And one of the things I do is I filter my thoughts through this process of asking myself, is this my responsibility, and is this within my sphere of influence to affect change? And so what I'm reflecting on right now is, what is in my sphere of influence to affect change? If today were my last day on this earth, what can I do today to affect change, to make a difference in my life, in the people that are closest to me, in their life, the people that I'm surrounded with, my community, their lives, the people I work with, my colleagues, their lives? See, everybody that listens to this podcast has influence. Early on, I said your position does not determine your potential to make an impact in the culture around you. And the same is true. Your status, your position, your title, what you presume to be your level of influence does not determine your potential to impact and change the people around you. Now, I always try to bring this back and make it practical. But I think I'm going to leave you with that. Because everybody listening to this, you probably are taking this through the lens and through the perspective of what you're looking at, what your life looks like right now. And so I hope that no matter what it is that you're facing today, no matter what circumstances you might be faced with, or the perspective at which you receive this podcast with, I really hope that you see an opportunity. I think that helps make us better people. I think that moments like today are sobering because they show us how fragile life is. But I also hope, and I hope that my friend who's going through this tonight one day listens to this podcast episode and knows that his life and the person that he's losing, their life, is igniting a desire in me to make the most of every single breath that I have, to love well, to be an encouragement, to be a positive change with the things within my sphere of influence to affect change in. And I hope that you're encouraged to do the same. That is all for today's episode of Synergetic Culture. I appreciate you listening, and we'll be back next week. Thanks.